Ranger Joe here, along with Freddy the Corn Snake. And yes, we're talking about snakes again. And this one is called Love is in the Air. We're going to talk about snake reproduction. Now in the snake world, the females have all the control. So when a female is ready to mate, she gives off a pheromone. It's a chemical. And this signals to the males that she's ready to mate. And in some species, like the copperheads, the males are larger than the females because those males will fight with each other to try to figure out who is the dominant one, and then hopefully the female will mate with that dominant one. They'll intertwine their bodies and try to push each other down to the ground. But most of our snakes, the females are larger. And when those males smell that pheromone, they come up, and then they have some strange courtship behaviors too. They'll rub up against her with their chin. Sometimes they'll do these jerky and twitching head movements that look really strange. Sometimes they'll bite around the female's head and neck, all in an attempt to mate with her. When they do mate, a lot of times it's in spring. Some of our snakes will mate in the fall, and some snakes will mate both times. And what's really neat about our snakes is those females can actually hold that sperm for several months until she's ready to use it to fertilize the eggs. And that's how they're able to mate in the fall, and then she fertilizes those in the spring. So the babies are born in the summertime or when it's warmer. Now, question for you. Do our snakes lay eggs or do they have live babies? Sort of a trick question. So about half of our snakes in North Carolina lay eggs, and about half of them have live babies. But what's fascinating is of those that have live babies, there's actually two different ways that they go about doing that. Let me tell you what I'm talking about. So corn snakes like this, they lay eggs. And that egg, it's got a leathery shell on it, and inside is a yolk that has all the nutrients and the embryo. And everything that embryo needs is inside of that egg. So the mother lays the egg, it develops over time, and then it hatches out of that egg. Well, those that have live babies, the first group is actually really similar, except the mother just keeps the egg inside of her body. So everything that embryo needs is inside of that egg. It's got a yolk inside of it, and it gets all the nutrients it needs, and that baby will then hatch from that egg when it's ready. But it's still inside the mother's body. And then she'll give birth to that live baby. The other group, the mother actually gives nutrients to the embryo throughout the gestation period, and it's through a placenta-like structure. And so it's just fascinating to me that within one group of animals, like the snakes, that there's three different ways that they'll have their babies. And some snakes, depending on the species, can have as few as 1 or 2 babies, and then some snakes are known to have over 100 babies at a time. But probably for the majority of snakes, the average is probably about a dozen to maybe 20, maybe 30 snakes at one time. But it's just amazing all the variety that's in there. And some of our snakes, like the mud snake and the rainbow snake, they're known to protect their eggs when they lay them until they hatch. And then a few, like the pit vipers, like the copperhead and the rattlesnake, they have live babies, and they're known to hang around with their babies for about a month or so, sort of protecting them and making sure they're okay. But most of our snakes, once they lay their eggs or have their babies, those babies are on their own. So, I hope you learned just a little bit about the reproduction of snakes today. If you want to learn more, check out my other videos on snakes. And remember, all animals, if they want to keep surviving, they have to reproduce. And so at some point, love is in the air.